So I get a fair few questions about my little stalking rifle. It always pops up on the socials. So I thought I'd just take this opportunity to run through it real quick, what it actually is and what I've done to it. So this is a Remington 783 Jackaroo. In America, and I'm assuming every other country, they sell this as a 16-inch barrel HBT, heavy barrel threaded. The difference is when this was made for the Australian market, the Jackaroo, is the oversized bolt handle, fitted standard, kangaroo sticker on it, and it comes with the Lucky 13 single stack 10 round mag. So I bought this a few years ago. It was about $900. The 308 versions of this are getting really, really hard to find. The reason is when people buy them, they generally don't want to get rid of them because they're a great little gun. You can get them in 243 and 223. You still see those ones pop up regularly, but the 308 ones are getting pretty bloody hard to find. They don't make them anymore, obviously. I think it was a limited run. I would like to know actually how many they spat out of these. I would assume it'd be in the few thousand.
Fucking bang on.
Recoil on this is awesome because it has this supercell butt pad. This is a Remington proprietary thing. It is honestly the best butt pad I've ever used, and I want to put it on everything. They're amazing. Now, in their little advert thing, they say it takes out 70% of recoil, and I would actually agree with that. The recoil on this feels about the same as most people's 223s. It's honestly that good. I find other people's 308s that have a different butt pad, and they're even heavier rifles, and they feel like they recoil a hell of a lot more. So definitely a pleasure to shoot.
Hit the tree. Low left.
I don't actually normally like this receiver tight with your little slit in the top because then you can't get your thumb in there and push around back down your mag and top load and stuff like that. But what it does afford you, being this tiny little slit here, is it stops dirt and sticks and leaves and shit getting into your action. You still do get a little bit of stuff in there, but nowhere near as much as you would get on a full open top like Mauser style action. So yeah, that's pretty good as well. Now, when I first got it, the first thing I realised was that the Lucky 13 mag was rubbish. The mag I had, the aluminium was actually machined incorrectly on the top. So what it would do is it wouldn't fit exactly correctly to the weapon. It would click in, and it would feel like you're fine. You pull down, you're like, yep, that's fitted. And as soon as you fire, the recoil would allow that mag to drop directly out. I got in contact with Lucky 13, sent it back. Then they sent me back this one. This one works. It still has marks on the feed lips from where it hits the receiver. So it's still not 100%. I don't know what their tolerances are when they make these. But, with things like that, it's any wonder why Lucky 13 went bankrupt. Yeah, these mags aren't the best in the world, but, if you're into 10 round mags, then fill your boots. I particularly don't like anything protruding down the bottom of my weapon. So that's why I went and bought a normal 4 round mag, so it sits flush on the bottom of the rifle. Now that was $95, I believe, they normally retail for. I have a second one as well, which I bought from Cleavers. They're having a sale, and it was like $35. So if you can get your hands on the 4 round mag, highly recommend. They're awesome. They don't have any feed dramas. They're made a hell of a lot better than the Lucky 13 ones because they're actually Remington, and they obviously fit flush. So there you go. Now, the next thing I did to this rifle was I fitted this muzzle device here. So this is just an A2 style flash suppressor. I got it from Gunbloke. It was $60. Came with an FDE Cerakote and whacked that straight on. Now, the reason why I needed that, there's two. So the first reason is muzzle flash. In low light hunting, been a couple of times where I've fired, and the fireball that comes out of this, because it is quite big, would be enough that it would completely blank out my scope and I wouldn't be able to see the deer anymore. So that was becoming a bit of a drama. The second thing is, because it is so short, the muzzle tends to jump a fair bit. With these gas ports all being on the top and the bottom being not ported, it actually pushes the gas down, so it helps keep your muzzle lower on recoil, especially when you're firing off a bench. It does seem to jump up a fair bit. With that, it keeps a little bit lower. Not bad.
Got him.
Got him. The next thing I did was I put some pivot mounts on it. Now these, I mainly got the pivot mounts because I want to be able to take my optic off and on. That's due to the nature of, reviewing optics all the time. I like to be able to have, I've got 2 different sets of rings, so I can just pop that one off, and then if I'm reviewing a different one, I can pop that one on as well. I've got a whole nother video on pivot mounts. There is nothing wrong with the Picatinny rail mount that comes with the weapon. I will just leave that on, it's perfectly fine. I've topped it off here with a Vortex 1-8 Strike Eagle. Awesome little sight. I've only just really recently got this, so I may do a review on that later, although there's 1,000 reviews on YouTube about that, so maybe I won't. But highly recommend the Vortex Strike Eagle. One thing I did as well on the back here, when I stripped the bolt apart, I have a video on that as well. I actually painted with nail polish the end of the back of the firing pin, so when it's cocked, you actually see a red dot there. So I'm using that sort of like a cocked indicator, because normally it's just black, and that works perfectly fine. You look down and you go, oh cool, that's red, I'm cocked. Works for me. I've got a shitty $10 bipod on here. It's literally like something you get off eBay, and that's working fine for me. Like, I don't shoot long range with this. I literally zero off the bipod, and I mainly actually use my bipod to put my rifle on the ground when I'm out hunting without putting it down in the mud, because I don't usually roll a sling. And even if I've sat down somewhere and I'm looking out and having a bit of a glass and whatever, I don't really like lying my rifle down, getting shit all around my sight and whatever. So I just like having a small bipod on there just to stand it up out of the dirt. It's the main reason it's on there. I put a Australian Tactical Precision cheek riser. It's a Kydex cheek riser on the back here, and that's just to make sure I have perfect eye relief. I'm an eye relief Nazi, so that's why I did that. It was a fairly cheap option, and works a treat. I love it. What else have we done to it? Well, the obvious one here is I've painted it. That was mainly to, one thing I don't like about the newer Remington and Marlin stuff is the bluing is rubbish. So it tended to gather a bit of rust. This paint job is not only, making it a little bit more fucking camouflage for in the bush, but it's mainly there to stop my little bits of surface rust that I was getting, because I do hunt in the weather a fair bit. This is a fairly good grade spray paint, so it should keep surface rust off. That's my main idea behind it. Now, performance-wise, little tweaks I've done is I brought my trigger pull down to, I believe it's sitting at about 1.4 pounds-ish. It's around the 1.5 pound mark. Very light now. Little tiny bit of creep in it, but it's not a very expensive rifle, so it doesn't really matter. But it's down nice and light. I can shoot perfectly fine with that. Now, the other thing I did was I pulled off my butt pad and I actually sprayed some expanding foam into the butt. These are hollow, and they normally make a hell of a racket, especially when you're scraping sticks and shit across it. It just has this really loud, plastic, hollow, buckety sort of sound, and it was getting a little bit of flex from when I've drilled these bolts through. So, solid as a rock now. So yeah, that wraps up my little rifle. I love this thing. I reckon it's pretty good. As I said, it's just a nice cheap rifle. It's light, weighs in at 2.5 kilos without the sight on, which is awesome for a good little stalking rifle, because you're gonna have it in your hands all day and walking around. And yeah, it can compare that to like a Ruger Gunsight Scout. They're about 3.3 kilos. That fucking Mossberg, that was up in the 4 kilo mark. When you're walking around all day with a gun, it gets a little bit old. If you're just a gun jockey that sits on the back of a ute all day, then you can have a fucking cannon and it won't bother you. So it just depends on how you hunt. So there you have it. The Remington 783 Jackaroo, my go-to stalking rifle. Hope you got something out of that. Enjoy the rest of your day. Jackaroo.